We start with our superstar. So the first lecture is given by Harvey Castro. Many of you probably know him. I'm a huge fan, and he will talk on the topic of how AI can read our brains. He's not only a physician and an entrepreneur, but he's also a healthcare consultant. He's a professor in Texas, and he's about to start a new company in AI or working with AI in medicine. Harvey, it's a great honor and pleasure to have you here, and we're very looking forward to your talk about how AI can read our brains.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it, guys. Let me share my screen and we'll get started. And first of all, it's an honor to be here, guys. I really appreciate Alexander. He's a great person. I admire his work. So thank you for having me, Alexander. All right, let me start my slide and then let me know if you guys can see
Yes, it
that.
works.
Okay, good. All right, so let's start. Big picture. So, can AI read my brain? So, I'm going to give you some background knowledge just so you understand. I know it's a bell curve. Everybody out there, some people use ChatGPT, some people use Claude, some people haven't heard of this. So, I kind of want to just start with this quick little video. All right. So what I like starting with that video is just to show you that that was almost God, I want to say like April of this year or March of this year, where one of the co-founders of OpenAI literally just took a picture of his napkin of a website that he was thinking, uh, entered it into ChatGPT, and then it made you the website. Now, I'm going to give you more background knowledge just because it's so important that you understand GPT in general, and then we'll go into can it read your brain. And so here's another quick story of a poor child that, after 3 years having leg pain, the mother was frustrated, went to 17 different doctors. Nobody could figure out what was wrong with this kid. But the mom, bless her heart, she took all the information from the doctor's notes, MRIs, put it into ChatGPT and said, what is wrong with my child? And what's amazing is ChatGPT said it was tethered cord syndrome, went back to the neurologist, neurosurgeon, and said, look, the ChatGPT says is this. And he went through all the films and said, you know what? I now see it. Yes, this is correct. And so to me, this is a huge breakthrough for us. And I know a lot of people are scared because this is it. What if it is reading my mind? What if it has that kind of power? And just to kind of give you some background, you're going to hear GPT in the world. You're going to hear something really big that's about to hit that's called Google Gemini. Some people have heard of Anthropic Claude, ChatGPT 5. There's so many things coming out. And so be aware that this is ChatGPT is just one of many. And these are the different sizes. ChatGPT has a 1.76 trillion is the size of it. And it shows you in the graph here. Now, why is this important? We shouldn't be scared of this technology. I personally think we should embrace it. And here's a good example. The IQ of ChatGPT, according to Scientific America, was 155. To give you reference, they say Albert Einstein was around 170. Elon Musk is around 155. Bill Gates is around 155. But the average population, as you look at this graph, is between 80 and 110, with the sweet spot being between 90 and 100. Big picture is if I had a technology that is going to help my IQ in the sense that if I can create some product and then I'm using ChatGPT to help me improve that product or my concept, then I have an aid that is there 24/7. Real quick, in my mind, I always say AI plus human is better just than human, and the human is better than the AI. Now, in medicine, every 30 days, the medical knowledge doubles. So I need something to help me. If I were to read medical literature, it would take me about 21 hours every single day, and I would have to read every day to keep up to date. Now, this graph, just big picture, look at the little red dot between 1 and 2, and just look at this as the quality of a response. So we took an average person, asked them a question, say, hey, give me a response, and it was rated between 1 and 2. Then we did the same thing with human experts, and it gave us a higher quality than an average person. Then we took the power of ChatGPT and asked ChatGPT, but we asked the human that then was not an expert to use it with ChatGPT, and now look how much better that responds. So big picture, it's not going to replace us, but it's going to augment us. And so now let's move towards the talk more. So AI reading our brain. This is kind of crazy. It's out there, but there's different things going on right now. There's an AI revolution in neuroscience. There's analytical power here. You have read some or have seen some interesting interfaces where it's the brain computer that is communicating. And so there's so many potentials here. And there's obviously this brings a lot of ethical questions. I'm going to give you guys these slides. You're welcome to it. I have no ownership in any of OpenAI or any of these slides. I just want to show just proof of concept. This was kind of interesting. It was a website, and I put it on here, but the skinny is this. You could draw any picture you want on the left, and then on the right, it's making that. So to me, if it's already able to interpret some of these images into a real image, I mean, what can we do if it can start reading our brain? And so there's different ways of doing that. There's this thing called fMRI. There's these EEGs that you put on your brain, on your head, that helps see the signal that's coming out of your brain. We mentioned earlier, there's these AI brain concept interfaces. Everybody's heard of Neuralink, where Elon Musk wants to put a chip inside your brain and help you with certain things, which is amazing. And that's the advanced BCI the next one. And then there's predictive analytics of what is your brain thinking, and can it come up with it? And I'll show you some fun slides. Now, as a doctor, I have to show this. The skinny is our brain is just electrical activity. We're sensing, we're smelling, we're tasting, we're sending signals back and forth to our brain. Every part of the brain sees things differently, and it's actually communicating. And so we're taking advantage of that principle, and we're really creating neural networks the same way. We're creating discussions that way, and it's kind of fascinating. These are just little slides out there. This one was, and again, you have access to all this, but just showing you that our brain is thinking, and we're able to kind of capture where in the brain it's thinking. And then obviously, if we have disease in our brain, and we know that that's a certain part of the brain that's responsible for certain part of functions of life, then we know that they're going to have trouble with that. Now, there's tons of studies talking about, let's put some implants in the brain. Let's help people with diseases. Let's look at this to another level, helping with patients with ADHD, anxiety, Parkinson's disease. There's so many diseases that can be addressed with these types of networks, and is it really reading our brain? And so, the first question, obviously, a lot of people are like, is this accurate? Is it reliable? Is there any ethical issues here? How expensive is this? Is there any long-term issues? Will people have issues because they're putting this in their brains? Infections, obviously the ethical dilemma. If it's really reading your brain and understanding what you're thinking, how ethical is that? Can we preserve our autonomy? So, this is kind of scary stuff, and I agree. Being able to predict Alzheimer's is huge. There's not many treatments out there, but the fact that if we know it's coming and we know what things to prevent, then how amazing is to be able to use this technology. I have, as an ER doctor, I see tons of patients that are stroke-like patients, and unfortunately, these patients, obviously, they can't speak, they can't move their arm, but how amazing if I was able to be able to use a certain chip, or if I could put a device on their brain, and now if they couldn't speak, because they have the device, they can think of their thoughts and start communicating to the computer, and that computer can be translated into text, into voice, and then that voice can obviously communicate. With the mental therapy, PTSD, and other things like that, it's another function that we can help. Obviously, we know that our armed forces are being traumatized and obviously mentally stressful and PTSD, but on top of that, having function loss. So why not be able to use these BCIs, these brain computer interfaces, to help our military members. And so this is quite interesting. It's really complex. And I'm going to make sure we leave some time here. But the coolest part of this presentation is the pictures. Now, we have this thing called magnetic encephalography, and all it is just it's kind of think of like an MRI, but then it's able to look at the signals that's going out of the brain and able to interpret those things, and we're taking advantage of that. Meta is really doing a good job decoding this, and they're spending a lot of money. Meta is formerly known as Facebook. They're doing a lot of research. So if you follow them on LinkedIn or Instagram, you'll see. Again, I'm not promoting them. I just like this. These are Meta glasses. They're made by Ray-Ban. If I go outside, the lens turns dark. But what's cool is I can connect AI to this, and in the background, I can hear it. So in theory, if you guys were asking me a question, if it was listening, it would hear it, it would talk to the AI would respond, and it would put it in my ear. And then if I was walking on a conference, but the reason I'm sharing these glasses real quick is to show you the potential. In the spring, I'll be able to look at my glasses. There's a button here. I can take a picture, or I can verbally say, take a picture. And then when it takes a picture, it will interpret that picture. Say I'm in Germany and I don't understand the menu. It would take a picture, it would translate it for me. Say I saw these amazing Mercedes-Benz and BMWs out there, and I'm like, ooh, what is that car? I could take a picture and it would interpret. So if it could do these kind of things now, imagine the applications that we'll be able to do for our patients. Now it's the really cool part. So how does this work? It's basically your brain is looking at the image, but then the computer is trying to figure out those waves and interpret it. And then it's actually generating a picture. Crazy to me. This is the best part of the conversation. So really look at these images. Everything on the left is the actual picture. And then the computer decoded those images and then made a picture. So the left is what's reality, and the right is what the computer interpreted those waves and said, this is what I think the person is looking at. So as you can see, this is pretty scary, but pretty cool. I mean, this guy on the left, he's wearing a tuxedo, and this is a guy, he's in jeans. It's not quite the same, but it's kind of giving you the idea. Here, there's a horse, and then there's this other thing that I don't know what that looks like, but it's an animal. This is where we are today, and I thought, it's kind of scary, but kind of good because, again, we can help. Now, these other ones did a better job. Here's a picture of an airplane, and here's another picture of an airplane. Animal, zebra, a lighthouse. These are actually much better. Sink. And so when I started thinking about this presentation, I thought, man, there's always room for people to do things for bad, but let's look at it on the positive. What if there was a crime scene and they found somebody that's a suspect, and you're able to put this on them and their thoughts, they're thinking of the crime scene, or you're asking them questions. This could be another lie detector, and they're starting to show images of that. That could help our police force. That could help our crime scenes to be able to figure out who did it. It's really amazing to me. Now, as we look at it, how does it work? Again, it's just literally think of electric waves. We're interpreting. I know I'm making it really simple, but it's basically what it is. It's these waves in our brain. We're detecting the images in our brain and those waves, and then we're putting it into algorithms that have studied that this wave shows you this picture, this other wave shows you that. So it's been lots of training. So with time, this is only going to get better. And there's a part of this that's called reinforced learning, that as people are looking at this and saying, no, this is wrong, this is right, and telling it why, then the computer is learning. And so if this is where we are today, I can't imagine where we'll be in 12 months. Now, different studies out there. Here's a device that you can see. It's on the brain. It's trying to pick up those sensories, those images that I'm talking about, those electrical waves. And then it shows you kind of how it's being done. Here's another research lab showing you the same basic idea, that they are looking at the waves and trying to figure out what those pictures are. These sketches, images to brain waves. I mean, we're seeing, huge advances. In healthcare, what are we going to be able to see? Well, I'm really stoked about seeing this being used in healthcare. I know it's scary, but I'm really excited to see people that maybe couldn't walk, maybe are able to walk again. People that couldn't speak for 30 years and, they had a stroke or they had a bad car accident. Now through AI, they're able to speak again and communicate with their loved ones. I know in Parkinson's disease, putting a special stimulator on the vagus nerve can help them from stop trembling where they couldn't eat to now they can grab something and eat and have that fine motor control. So this is quite interesting. We mentioned already the MEG versus the fMRI. Just think of different ways of detecting that signal. But I think in the future, we're going to be doing a better job at this. We're going to be doing more interfaces for our patients. In healthcare, I think this will be huge. I know there's, a lot of ethics behind this, and there's guardrails that we must keep. And obviously the GDPR and HIPAA here in the United States, we got to make sure that we're controlling and we're careful. But again, I'm looking at it on the positive side. Once we address all those things, how can we help humanity? How can we help others? And so I'm going to fly through these because I really want to spend time just talking about Q&As and making sure that we kind of understand this. But big picture, keep an eye on this technology. It's definitely growing. It's definitely scary. I know that what you guys were probably expecting is like talking about Apple. Apple has the newest iPhone 15 now has AI in it. It's about 34 million parameters, and basically it does a really good job with autocorrect, or when you text, it can predict what you're doing. I have a Mac computer here on my right, and that Mac new computer has AI in it where it's having those algorithms. Microsoft next year has announced that, well, it's unofficial, that their new Windows 12 will have ChatGPT inside the computer. So it's literally going to be reading what you're doing, understanding, and being an assistant. ChatGPT just came out with GPTs that now you can create your own assistant. About 2 weeks ago, I was at a conference, and this guy was showing me a product that in the surgical room, with your eyes, wherever he looks, it can control a mouse and hit enter. So that way, when he's a surgeon and not touching anything that can, he's sterile, he can't touch anything. Now with his eyes, he can control a mouse. And I thought, if that's literally reading your eyes, it's really looking at where you're fixating. This technology it's in its infancy, but at the same time, it's exponential. So the things that we're able to do today, I think even 6 months from now, it's going to be more. And so as we look forward to the future, we got to make sure we balance, obviously, that innovation with responsibility. Our call to action to our scientists is to make sure we put those right guardrails to make sure we comply. But at the same time, we want to make sure that the public receives this. If the public resist this, then some of the people out there may say, well, no one's going into this, it's too early. But I really think in medicine, we're going to see some huge strides. So let me finish here. Real quick, if you're interested, I have a course on AI in healthcare. It's under $100. It's pretty cheap, but it's going over a lot of stuff. Feel free to hit me up. I have a cheat sheet on how to use GPT in healthcare. Again, this is free. It's just a download that I did. It had over 100,000 people download this, but it's using AI in healthcare. And then I'm going to leave it here for Q&A. Oh, and then before I start that, I'm looking at the time. I still got a little bit of time. I'm on all the social media, but this is really cool. I love AI, obviously. I cloned my voice. And what I do is I took an article from, let's say, JAMA or some medical article. I feed it into ChatGPT, and it gives me a fake conversation of exploring that article. But then I use my cloned voice and my business partner's voice, and it uses that transcript, and then we put a podcast. All of that in less than 10 minutes. It's amazing. Now, how do I see that in healthcare? I really think this is going to be great, because if I have a patient that I want to do education, I can clone my voice. They can hear me. If I'm discharging them home and they weren't sure what I said, I could put it all in as my clone voice, and obviously GDPR compliance and all that, and then give them a file of that information. So really fascinating stuff out there. So let me unshare my screen. And then open it up for questions and answers. So thank you, Alexander. I appreciate it. Hopefully that met somewhat your expectations. But thank you.
Harvey, thank you so much. Great as always, and a lot of new ideas and a lot of new technology developments. So we have a couple of questions in the chat, and thank you for also giving us a few minutes to ask you these questions. And maybe I can start with the first question, because the AI pin being introduced last week or 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
How do you see the future? Will it be a smartphone? Will it be glasses? Will it be a pin you put somewhere? Will it be in the environment, just reading our brains? what's the next step beyond the smartphone?
I do see it as we're gonna, right now these smartphones are very expensive. But
Mm.
I feel like in the future it's going to be our device will depend on our environment. So, for example, you and I are going hiking in Germany. I may want to wear the pin because I want my hands free and I'll be able to talk. Say my wife wants to go to a fancy dinner in Germany, then she may wear a bracelet that's a phone, and then she switches. She may be at work and like, I really need my data screen, so I'm going to use the iPhone. So my point is this: I really think the future is going to be we're going to have multiple devices, and it'll be kind of like talking to your iPhone and then switching to your iPad and then switching to your computer. It'll be the same thing, but it'll be your mobile, because every situation will require a different garment. And so I think that will be the future. Now, as far as AI, oh my gosh, I'm really excited because this thing will have more memory, higher GPU power or CPU power. And my point is this: I see a future where we're going to be able to put CPR and we put it inside the phone. So, regardless if there's internet or not, the CPR is on here. So, then if someone is down and I'm not a doctor, you can look at your phone and the phone will say, okay, this is how you do CPR. And then someone else, in theory, can hold it and can see if you're doing it right or if you're doing it not right. And it'll be all on the phone. And so the future is just unreal to me.
Future's bright. So a lot of questions in the chat. You covered some already. AI in everyday activities in, let's say, 5 years from now. Probably answer that, and maybe you can also comment in the chat later. But Fabian Wallnöfer has a very interesting question, I think. So addressing the complexity of the brain, what can AI contribute to neurology research that our brains can't? So will we, get an insight into depression and mental health disorders from a completely new perspective? And then how do we use it for treatment?
Yeah, no, this is a great question. So think of it this way. If you haven't heard of this, look up GPT graphs. But basically, think of it this: as a doctor, my job is to take the different facts and then put them together and say, this is what's wrong. The nice thing about this power of GPT or AI is it can put large data, huge data that my brain can't really correlate all these things, and then be able to say, you know what, there is a correlation between this and this. Here you go. And then let the human look at it and be like, I don't know if I agree or I don't. Let me explore, let me study it. And that is how we're going to start finding new solutions for depression, new treatments. There's this thing called AlphaFold by Google. Look it up. It's really interesting. What they did is they mapped out all the different proteins and how that works in our body. But think of it this way: think of it as a map of all the different proteins, and think of a lock and key and how that works. And basically, the skinny is this: the computer is telling us that here are the keys and we know here are the locks. And now we can start developing drugs 90% cheaper. And we're able to do things because AI is helping us put these correlations together that we don't understand because the information is so big. Hope that made sense.
It definitely did. And another question regarding the images derived from the brain waves. Why are some so much more accurate than others? So is it the computer science or is it the sensors? What's the difference?
No, that's an awesome question. I personally think it's a combination of two. 2, 3 years ago, we couldn't do some of this stuff because the sensors weren't that good, the chips weren't that good. Our chips are getting better. And then at the same time, we're doing what's called reinforced learning. So we're saying, no, this is not good information. So it's two things: garbage in, garbage out. So the information that's coming in is
Mm.
better. So we're able to get better output. The other part is we are having humans literally look at every image and saying, okay, this one's wrong, this is why, and then going back to the algorithm and fixing it. And so you start doing this pretty quickly. The AI is also teaching itself, which is kind of scary, but kind of cool.